Cinema Worms.
Discussing everything from Grima Wormtongue to the Shy Halib.
I'm Sabib,
And I'm Linz.
and this is Cinema Worms Podcast. You're fine.
It's not symmetrical. Oh, you know you're recording. Stop recording. You're gonna cut that out, right?
So we're here for a special Halloween edition.
Spooky.
As you can tell, I have brought my Halloween nails.
Very Halloween.
See?
Exceedingly spooky.
Thank you. I try. We'll be discussing The Descent on its 20th anniversary.
Oh dear, how time flies. I don't like that at all.
This was my first time seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a screening for the 20th anniversary, and this is your whatever second or however many times you've seen it.
You think I've only seen The Descent once? My darling, no.
No, well, now twice.
I've seen it a dozen times.
What?
Like, at least. Yeah,
Oh my
lot.
gosh, this is like me and Constantine, which also had its 20th anniversary this year.
Which I still haven't seen.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about that in November.
Okay.
It was a horrifying experience. And you loved it, and now I love it.
I enjoyed counting the number of times you jumped right out of your seat. It was great.
And then, you know, when I really don't like what's going on screen, I just go...
Yeah, you did wag your finger at it like a disapproving mother, which amused me a lot. I enjoyed this quiet rebellion.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything. You were just like, no, 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 no. I don't like this at all. That happened several times, actually. And to be fair, there's a lot to be, scolding in this film. It's a lot of scary stuff happening.
Disapprove of tiny claustrophobic spaces.
That too. Well, shall we get into the premise first?
Yeah, so this is a 2005, and I didn't know, British horror film. It is written and directed by Neil Marshall, and it stars some actresses that you may know or may not know. Shauna MacDonald, Natalie Mendoza, Alex Reed, Saskia Mulder, Nora Jane Noon, and Mayanna Buring. And
I do have some notes about each of them.
yeah.
Well, kind of one by one.
Oh yeah, please do, because I was like, I got stuck down rabbit holes looking at their careers.
Well, it's a nice rounded cast of actresses, and a lot of them have gone on to do something else. Ironically, so Shauna MacDonald, who kind of plays like our main character, Sarah, we only see her husband pretty briefly in this, but he actually went on to do a bunch of period stuff, including like he's so well done for him. He's barely in this, but like, anyway. So Shauna MacDonald is actually Scottish. So I didn't know this until I started researching it, but after she graduated from school, she studied acting at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama in Glasgow, where she was 2 years below James McAvoy. And then she went on to become the co-artistic director of the Edinburgh the Edinburgh Youth Theatre in 2014.
I did know that,
yes,
actually.
which actually McAvoy, I believe, is a patron of as well.
Beautiful.
So that's pretty cool.
Scotland recognizing the arts.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We're all about the arts. It's particularly Edinburgh. And also, I think, you could kind of argue about who did what and who did the most, but Mayanna Buring, who plays Sam, one of the sisters, was in 2 of the Twilight films, Downton Abbey, and she played a major role as Tessia de Vries in the Witcher Netflix series. So she's got quite an angular face, so you kind of recognize it. It's really funny to see her as Baby. She's very baby in this, and then she's like grown up.
Which one is this?
She was the Swedish one. And the woman who plays her sister, Saskia Mulder, who plays Rebecca, is actually Dutch, which is why their accents do not match up in the film, and it's really funny to me.
Yeah.
So Saskia Mulder was in the 2000 DiCaprio film The Beach, as well as a low-key British comedy that has got kind of a cult classic status, but it's not Spaced, it's the other one. It's called The Book Group, and she has the very amazing like jewel in her crown, as far as I'm concerned, something I'm jealous of. She was in the very first episode of Jonathan Creek, a show that I love very much. Nora Jane Noon, who plays Holly, the Irish kind of base jumper, who is the most kind of bold and courageous of this crew, to her own detriment sometimes. In 2020, she was voted 47th, or voted, I say the Irish Times put her as 47th. I don't know if they consulted the public. They put her as 47th on the list of greatest Irish actors of all time. You may recall that Fiona Shaw, my bae, was also on that list, but she was considerably higher. She has
Yes.
done a little more. But I quite like Nora Jane. It kind of makes me want to go and see other things that she's done, because she is so good in this. It surprises me that given the kind of range of these actresses and the fact that they did so well in this film, that they didn't go on and do more later.
So they're all great. Anyway, the plot. It begins with Sarah, I believe played by Shauna McDonald, and she's with her husband and child. They're rafting, and she's rafting with her friends Juno and Beth, and the trio of friends seem very tight. And her husband and child are watching this rafting, and it's just so terrifying, even the way it's filmed. But they're laughing like, this is fun.
Do you know, actually, when we were watching it, I was thinking, because it's been a while since I've seen it, it is filmed, the rafting scenes filmed very much like the quick shots of editing remind me of what they did in Taken to make a slightly elderly Liam Neeson look really exciting as he jumped over a fence. It was like 47 shots of editing, only this time they did actually achieve it.
Yes, it was really visceral. Then, to not have spoilers, let's just say there is very quickly into the film a massive personal tragedy for Sarah. And then we jump to a year later. She's coping with her grief, and she joins her friends Juno, Beth, and some other people at a cabin where they're going to go on a caving expedition in the Appalachian Mountains. And they go on this caving expedition. It seems like Juno and her have some tension because after this personal tragedy, Sarah was kind of left with her grief, and Juno kind of pieced out. Beth was a better friend. And Juno seems to feel guilty, but she seems to be very focused on this caving expedition they're all going to do. And she's sort of leading the charge.
It's almost like she thinks if this goes well, it sort of erases the fact that she left Sarah in her time of need, that she's sort of like, this will make up for it. And I'm like, it doesn't at all, but you know.
And other things she feels guilty about. And they go into this cave system. It's much more dramatic than any of them anticipated, and quite a bit harder to navigate. And let's just say they discover certain things about this particular caving system, and then they're trapped underground. A rockfall traps them, and the fun adventure quickly becomes a nightmare. The women find these strange cave paintings. They're searching through, trying to find their way out of the cave, and there's evidence of an earlier expedition. And eventually they realize also that they're not alone. There's more to this cave system than they could horrifically imagine. And what was your experience upon first seeing The Descent? I remember when it came out, and I was absolutely a wimp back then. I only started getting into horror films more recently, like more able to tolerate them. And back then I was like, I could not watch that.
I mean, it's probably a good idea, because it is one of the scariest films I've ever seen for various reasons. And I also think there's so much we can say about this film. It's a perfect film to talk about during the month of Halloween. It's one of those films that it's quite a classic, has become a cult classic. It is not without, I'm sure you could argue, some flaws here and there, but overall it hits all of the notes. As we said before, these actresses are great. They're pretty consistently, you believe them as friends and people who are stuck in a bad situation and kind of trying to, make their way through it. You understand that they've all got kind of different relationships and stuff. The only note I really have for The Descent is I would have liked a bit more of that to begin with, just like before we kind of get to the cave, of just kind of like feeling out those relationships just a touch more. But because
I would add an end in the cave too, in certain ways, without spoiling things. So I agree with you.
But as we progress, we do get to know them a little bit better, and we do kind of see how we get foreshadowing of how they're each going to react to things that are happening. It is, as you probably will say, I'm gonna guess you're gonna say it's lean. It's a lean script. It is.
You've been looking at my notes.
Maybe a little bit, just sneakily. It's well done. It's atmospheric is a word that I think of when I think of The Descent, but it's also tightly paced and quite controlled. There are parts of it where even though I've seen it like a lot, and although it's been a few years since I last saw it, I was still on the edge of my seat. Even when I remembered what was happening next, I'm still bated breath waiting for it to play out. It's so suspenseful and it's so nicely done. You genuinely, I was sort of watching you sometimes instead of watching the screen. I was thinking, if I was seeing this for the first time, I would not necessarily know what's coming next. As a person who can almost, like, without fail predict what's coming next, it is really like you don't see some of the jump scares coming, some of the other things that are happening you don't see coming. It's just really nice the way everything and everyone starts to unravel. It's it's one of those films I would have given a lot to have written this film.
It's like follows everything you would want, I guess, in screenwriting advice, in that it really doesn't waste time setting up this story, and it does so efficiently, but in a way that like doesn't, that you know how amazing it is to be able to be emotionally invested so quickly, and to have a series of moments that just paint a picture, and then the viewer can like fill it in. So you actually care about what's happening, because
you're not spoon-fed as well.
Yeah,
no one's
all.
going, remember when and this happened, and you're just you're shown it, and you don't need to. You saw it happen. You don't need to have explained to you. I feel like if it was made now, there would be a lot of studio notes saying, "Oh, you better remind the audience here. You better say that." There.
Not trusting them.
Yeah.
It is lean. It is a combination of claustrophobic terror, a horrific slasher, a sort of psychological journey of dread, and also a thriller. So it felt like kind of unique to me in that it was such an action-packed horror. There's great acting throughout. There's element of like the grief being a horrific element that reminded me of the Babadook. I wonder if that filmmaker, she took any inspiration from these like flashback sequences, flashes of grief. And I thought Juno as like a sort of morally ambiguous character is fascinating. Can I give you just
yes
tell me more about that, or whatever you want to talk about?
So one of the things I said to you when we came out is this film could have been cast gender blind. You know, it's one of those films that, like, it could have been all men, or it could have been a mix, it could have been anybody. I really like that it was all women. And
yeah, me too. It was badass.
Right. And but as such, the character of Juno is therefore allowed to be interesting. She is allowed to have made mistakes and still have some really great qualities, but also some of her worst qualities are like her own undoing, and you see that with other characters as well. They sometimes they stick together, sometimes they split apart for various reasons. They make decisions based on like their fears and their hopes in the moment, and you can't really ask anything more of people who are in a tight situation. They're pretty much all trying to do their best, but whether their best is necessarily right for the moment or not is not always. And that's one of the wonderful things. She is allowed to be kind of a mess in a lot of ways, but she's also really fearless. She was the one who found this cave. She wanted to take them. She is trying to make up for something that she's done. She's trying to make up for not being there and feeling guilty, but at the same time she has done things that she feels guilty about,
and she's really untrustworthy.
She is. And I think that I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. I mean, it has been out for 20 years, so you've had time.
Wait, but I've been trying not to spoil it the whole time.
No, I'm going to say
spoilers begin now.
I'm not really going to spoil. I'm just going to say that one of the most interesting things for me with her character is that, as you say, she is untrustworthy. She shows herself to be untrustworthy, but that doesn't actually make her a bad person. It makes her a bad friend in some ways, but she's also a good friend in some ways. And I love that she's allowed to have that, because again, I feel like if you made this film now, it would be like, oh no, Juno has to be just a bad person. Like, everything she does has to be like subterfuge for and she wouldn't be allowed to be actually kind of good in some ways, to be courageous and kind of noble and helpful and loyal. They would take all that away, and they would just make it just binary. She's good or she's bad, and all the rest of the characters get lumped into good or bad, and they react based on that. That's not how people are. You know, I hate using the phrase shades of grey because it has been ruined by the books and film, but it very much is a spectrum of grey here.
And some of the pivotal plot points are not some supernatural or just like evil killers coming after them sort of terror, but it's the horror of like a mistake or a bad decision or something gone horribly wrong accidentally.
And when you're in the dark and you're under pressure, can you really be blamed for making a mistake? Should we hold people to that standard? Because that's a question that made me want to ask myself.
Yeah, we can sort of feel for Juno. And a couple points I wanted to make about cinematography that was really interesting.
Oh my god, because there's so many interesting
I had to
things.
look into it.
This thing, this is, as you said, like, it's a mismatch of genres, but it works. A lot of films try to squish genres together and it doesn't work at all. This is like 4 different genres.
Yeah.
And the cinematography is incredible, and the way that they use night vision. I want to talk about that as well. But please tell us about the cinematography first, because I feel like it must have been. I know they built some cave sets to do this. It was like 21 cave sets, right?
I don't know the number of cave sets.
I believe it was 21 cave sets, but they just lit them differently to make it look like it was different caves at different times, because obviously they weren't going to build. They didn't have the. Who has the money to build 100 caves?
Yeah, it's basically there was a lot of exterior stuff because these are nature gals, outdoorsy types, and that was filmed in Scotland. And then it was all filmed in a studio from sets. So I think that's what you're talking about. And apparently it was basically the set designer created a whole bunch of caverns and tunnels out of this self-expanding foam that could then be cut away.
Ooh.
And it's wild because it straight up looks like they're in a cave.
I assumed that they'd filmed at least part of it in a cave before I researched it. I assumed that
It's
none
wild.
of it was in a cave.
Not to my knowledge.
Wow.
Now, I don't know that first time when they're descending, but from everything I read, and a lot of it is technically beyond my grasp, but it was a set, and that was easier. And they're really going for like a straightforward, the actual cinematography, right? In terms of like the style. It does have a sort of straightforward, direct feel, right? Like you're just following them around. There's not a lot of like, the shots are all utilitarian, but they're intense and like tight. And a lot of it has to do with lighting. How are you creating lighting that's works where it feels like very deep black cavey, but you can still see things. So they had to do all kinds of things, or they're using these like ring lights and reflector boards, and then they're also trying to mimic the light they would actually have. So using headlamps, flashlights, glow sticks, flares.
Oh, the flares were great. I know they were kind of a nightmare to. I think they were a nightmare to do. But
so basically, they would like use an actual flare in a wide shot, and then they would throw it or something, and then they would quickly douse it because that would look terrible as it like fizzes out.
And stuff,
and then they would use some like other red light that then they would like correct afterwards to match. But you were saying about
That's really
also
cool.
keeping things dynamic, using different, like, because they're just in a bunch of caves.
That could get boring quite quickly.
Yeah. So that's
if you weren't gonna kind of mix it up.
The night vision stuff comes in.
So Holly, played by Nora Jane Noon, the Irish character here, has a camera that has like a night vision portion, and that is really helpful in providing some things and like 1 or 2 jump scares, and it's just a really nice. It almost, I don't know, when was the Blair Witch Project?
It would have been like 2001, something like that.
So yeah, so very, very not that long before this. So it was making me think like it almost borrows a little bit from that found footage feel.
Definitely was the hot thing.
Yeah, but without, what it really bugged me about the Blair Witch was it's so much shaky cam. Like I can't watch that.
Never seen it.
I have inner ear problems. Like I can't even read on a bus. Like I can't watch this stuff. If people, thank God we're starting to lead away from shaky cam at the moment. I've seen not as many films in the last couple of years because for a while I was having to close my eyes in a lot of films for various portions. It's hard to review a film if you can't see it most of the time. But it was making me grateful for the fact that, like her character Holly has a pretty steady hand the whole way, and like when other characters pick it up to use it again, they're not like jangling it around everywhere. It's pretty steady, and you really get the effect of that as well. It's used to great advantage in a couple of scenes.
Well, yeah, you have night vision, so it changes up the. There's a sense of like, okay, we're hiding. We're seeing something sort
Yes.
of like that we shouldn't be able to see. There's like an uncanny vibe to it. And it creates something visually dynamic, like mix it up a little bit. And it can allow storytelling elements that you couldn't if you were completely in the dark, well, how do you see? So it was truly an adrenaline rush throughout. It was horrifying and quite like bleak and just violent.
Ooh, well, I mean, maybe we should have quick actual spoilers now. So if you don't want any if you haven't seen The Descent, it has been 20 years, that's on you. But I would like to know, how did you feel about the ending? Or rather, one ending and then kind of the real ending. How did you feel about that?
Basically that Sarah gets out and escapes, and she's the only one through terrible means.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that Lionsgate cut that ending.
Okay. So basically there were two endings. Where she escapes into daylight, gets out, is like, and is driving away in a car. And then it flashes to she's back in the cave.
And she's working out how to leave. Essentially.
Well, no, when she goes back into the cave, just my understanding is that she's seeing this torch she has. She's hallucinating that it's the candles on her daughter's birthday cake.
No, I know, but I'm saying it. I'm saying that it takes you back to this moment where she hasn't escaped, and she's got to decide now whether she will or not.
She seemed to be fully crazy mode to me.
I mean, yeah,
and
she was
just like, ha! This fake spirit of my daughter. I'm trapped in the cave forever.
Okay, but how did you feel about those endings, and how do you feel about the fact that Lionsgate cut that
for the American cut?
Actually,
the UK cut, I think, still had it.
It did, because we were okay with that, but they didn't necessarily think that audiences would respond well. I know the director was not happy about that at all.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's too dark. I'm like, no, it brings it all full circle. It brings it full circle.
It is the last gut punch in a series of gut punches.
Yeah.
I think it needs it. I think it's really without it. It's just sort of like a flare. You want that burst. You don't want it to just sort of peter out on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. If she just escapes, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so she escaped. And it's a doomed tragedy. No one's getting out alive. And that makes sense.
I do think there's I'm going to push my ending theory here, but I do think that there's a moment where, because she is equating, as you said, the torch that she's holding with the candles on her daughter's cake, there is a sense that because her daughter keeps blowing out these candles and we keep seeing it over and over, that she has to decide then, well, is she going to go for the future that she kind of just dreamed, which is her fighting through things, of her overcoming like the monsters and kind of sort of vaguely hurting Juno in an attempt to, kind of right a wrong, and escaping. Is she going to go for that, even knowing what it will cost her to get out, or is she going to resign herself to the dark, which is where her husband and daughter now are?
She's gonna resign herself to the dark.
I mean, you really should. Okay.
No, obviously,
yeah.
it presents both of those endings
to
be ambiguous.
Yes.
And you are supposed to just have both of them happening at the same time. So you're absolutely right. It's that question of those two. Will she this or that?
Yeah.
And she's like Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's twat. not Sarah, and definitely not Sean McDonald, but just in general. No, I like it, and I'm not always a fan of having the rug pulled for me in an ending. It has to be a good ending. I'm thinking like the twist has to be like a coherence. There has to be something that makes me go, oh my god. But there's something that you could have seen coming and that makes perfect sense and fits the film. It's not like, oh, it was actually X all along, or, like a Sixth Sense thing, but like something that feels like it fits, and that it made me feel, my god, she's not out. It made me feel despair, but also, is she gonna go for that path? Is she gonna choose something else now? Like, it left me thinking about it long after I'd come out of the film. I'm still thinking about it now, 20 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly the lesson that the filmmaker wants you to take away. So The Descent, 20th anniversary, if you haven't seen it, You should now. It's been 20 years.
My God,
I finally
what
saw
are you
it.
doing? What have you been doing for 20 years? Washing your hair? It can't take that long. Go and see The Descent.
Happy Halloween from Cinema Worms. Why don't you like and subscribe while you're here?